Roy and Walt Disney started out with a studio in Kansas City, and this, what you're about to see, is part of the test film they made. This little girl's name is Virginia Davis, and Virginia is actually still alive. She's in her 80s, and they wanted to make a film to compete with the other animated films that were being made in the day, but what they wanted to do was have a live girl appear inside an animated cartoon. The gentleman whose back is to the camera, who's about to turn around, is in fact Walt Disney. He was in his 20s, and this is not the first film they made, but one of the first ones that they made. You'll actually see some of the people who worked in the studio at the time. Virginia Davis was a totally charming, wonderful little girl. When they finally moved to Hollywood, they tried another little girl in the part, and it just didn't work out. So the producers insisted that they bring Virginia with her mommy from Kansas City out to Hollywood.
I mean, it's amazing when you watch this and know that this was what year in?
This is about 1923.
It is amazing. And the classic charm of those cartoons is forever cherished.
We're going to see at the show a film called Alice's Wild West Show, and hopefully it will be seen the way audiences would have seen it in 1924, which is with an organist playing the Mighty Wurlitzer and the Sheas. Films didn't have a soundtrack at the time, which is part of the story about Mickey, is that the early films had no soundtrack. The soundtrack that you may be hearing, we can't hear it in the studio, was put on many, many years later. It was composed just for this film. But at the time, if you'd seen this film in a theater, the organist would have improvised a score while you were watching the film. We don't know who the people are in the background, but I think that they were the animators that worked in the Kansas City studio along with Walt and Roy Disney. This little mouse who's on camera sort of poking at the cat it is in some ways the ancestor of Mickey.
Okay.
There were other films at the time. The Fleischer brothers were making films. Walt Disney is not the first person to make animation. It's just that he became one of the best and the most famous at it. And this is where it all began, is with these little cartoons. There's a special effect here.
If I could see David's face, we could pan it. He was just having the best time watching this.
There's a special effect here where the animation is put into the frame in a very special way. That was a very early special effects technique.
But, you know, my expression, I mean, that's when you come to see these films on the 40-foot high screen at Shea's Buffalo, you're just going to be in awe. I mean, how can you not?
It's just a little child in you. I can just see her totally, and how could we all not? I mean, that's just, you know, whether, you know, we're 80 or we're 40 or 30, I mean, we all have had exposure to Disney, and, you know, to be able to let our children see that as a total gift.
Many of these films are available on DVD. You can see them, but it's not the same. It's not the same at all. When you go to the Shea's Buffalo, it's the last remaining movie palace with it has actually the second largest movie screen in New York State, and that's how people saw these films, is on a great big screen. When you see Mickey 4 feet high, you really begin to understand why people loved it so.
We'll capture the David expression, all of us.
We have a clip now from Oswald the Rabbit.
Well, we're gonna see that at the next segment. We're going to take a break now, so we don't want to cut that short. So before we go, what about the number people can call? David, do you have a number where people can call?
Get your tickets. They're available now at Ticketmaster, 852-5000, or they're available at Ticketmaster's website, or you can go to www.shays.org, the Shea's Buffalo website. So Ticketmaster, 852-5000, or www.shays.org, and get your tickets now.
Yeah, seriously.
Get them now, because this is going to go like gangbusters.
Perfect. Yeah. We're going to be back in just a moment. Don't go away. We have more clips to show you and more surprises in our next half. Don't go away.
And by Lockport Presbyterian Home, located at 305 High Street in Lockport, New York.
Welcome back to Western New York Tonight. I'm your host, Tammy Lee Demler, and we're talking about Mickey Mouse's movie masterpieces coming here for a once-in-a-lifetime show. We have joining us tonight the president of the Buffalo International Film Festival, Edward Summer, and no stranger to our set, David Bondrow, who's a co-producer of this fabulous event. second half of our show, we're going to be showing more clips. But what do you have here, Edward?
This is a poster from Oswald the Rabbit. After the Alice cartoons, the Disney studio made Oswald cartoons. And Oswald's very important in the history of Mickey Mouse because the character was stolen from him by the producer. He had gone to New York City to collect the money that was due to him, and he found out he didn't own Oswald.
That's terrible.
And he went home literally bankrupt.
Okay.
And they didn't know what to do, and they had made 50 of these Oswald cartoons. We're seeing a little clip from an Oswald cartoon now.
Mm-hmm. And this really didn't belong to him then. He lost it. No,
he lost it. He had signed it away in a contract, and they had staked their entire future on it. Walt and Roy had staked their future, and they just didn't know what to do. They were desperate. Mm-hmm. So he came back to California, and he sat down with his key animator, who was a gentleman with a very strange name. His name was Ub Iwerks. Actually, his name was Ubby, U-B-B-E.
That doesn't make it any better.
But he shortened it to Ub.
Ub.
And it was Ub Iwerks who single-handedly drew the very first Mickey Mouse
And that's
cartoon.
him. That's who we're seeing here right now. Oh,
and we're about to see a little clip from the documentary that we're going to show. At the event, you'll be able to see this whole documentary.
Okay, what are we seeing here, Edward? Just a little bit about him, huh?
Hollywood, 1927. Walt Disney would soon lose his most successful cartoon character to date, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, to a New York distributor. Abandoned by his staff, Walt would be left with no money, no character, and little hope. But one of the true forces remaining by his side would be his closest friend and chief animator, Ub Iwerks. Overnight, Iwerks would design the circular black ears, the effervescent spirit that would transcend all generations, nationalities, and time, soon to become one of the world's most prominent icons, Mickey Mouse. What led up to this momentous turn in animation history and what would follow is the untold story of Ub Iwerks.
Pretty neat.
At the event, you'll be able, at 10:30 in the morning, you'll be able to see the entire documentary that we just saw the clip from. It's really wonderful. It's incredibly moving. It was made by Ub Iwerks' granddaughter, Leslie. We had hoped that Leslie would be able to come, and we're not sure, but she had other commitments. We wanted to have a member of the Iwerks family here because he was, in fact, Walt's partner. Ub Iwerks single-handedly drew the first Mickey Mouse cartoon, which was Plane Crazy. We have a clip from Plane Crazy. Plane Crazy was drawn by Ub all alone in a room, locked in, because all of Walt's people who had worked on Oswald had quit the studio. They had gone to work for Universal, and they had to make this in secret because they didn't want anybody to steal it. In just a moment, you'll see the first appearance of Mickey Mouse on screen.
Oh, really?
Yes. Mickey, you'll notice, is wearing no shoes. He has little mousy feet, and he has different eyes. There he is.
Oh, yeah, look
and
at
in this story, Mickey is dreaming of being Lucky Charles Lindbergh, who flew across the Atlantic in the spirit of St. Louis. This was Walt's idea of who Mickey would be. This film was actually made as a silent cartoon, but it was given a score almost a year later. But the first audiences that saw this in California saw it with an improvised musical score. In a moment also, you're about to see the first appearance of Minnie Mouse on the screen. She'll walk in. She's very, very cute. Mickey evolves over the years, and at the event, you'll be able to see 10 of the finest Mickey Mouse cartoons ever made, and you'll see how Mickey changes, how his personality evolves, and how he becomes the most beloved and iconic character in American movie history. There's nowhere in the world where people don't know who Mickey Mouse is.
And while he looks different in his earlier stages, you know him.
Absolutely.
To know him is to love him.
That's right.
And what do you have there, this next thing up here?
Well, this is a poster
Okay.
from when Mickey Mouse became Technicolor. But we're skipping ahead just a little bit.
Okay.
Mickey's next appearance was